Hey, this is Chucky Cinelli with Coco's Italian Market. We're going to make a Timpano today, and it's not on our menu, it's not even on our catering menu, but because of the popularity of the movie The Big Night, every so often we make these for our customers, and usually for catering or if we're doing a banquet. It's a very festive dish, and Timpano is Italian for timpani drum or drum. Anyways, let's get started. It's a kind of a long process. You can take a lot of shortcuts and just have fun with it and practice, and every time you make it, you'll do something different. All right, let's go. Here, my mom and my son are helping today, and that's my mom, and she is oiling the bowl. I always use a little bit of butter and oil together. It's the oil helps with the melting point of the butter. And this porcelain bowl, we purchased it on Amazon, or maybe it was on eBay. Either way, here's a picture of what to look for if you want to purchase one. But some people use a stainless steel bowl. You can use a casserole dish. You know, just there's no real right or wrong way. Just have fun with it. All right, some tips for the pasta. Well, one thing you want to do is you want to have everything prepared in advance. The pasta that I like to use is the curlicue kind of ziti, and it's maybe 3 inches long, and that way the curlicues kind of meld themselves together, and that gives it a little bit more structure. Also, a little tip when you're cooking the pasta, I like to have the water very heavily salted. No oil, because the oil will make the pasta slippery, and then you don't get the sauce sticking to the pasta. Also, cook it al dente or even less, because we're going to cook it again. And if you cook it less, it'll absorb more moisture from all the ingredients in Timpano. So there's a few tips for you. Al dente, if you didn't know, is Italian literally to the tooth. So tap on your tooth right now, and that's how hard your pasta should be. Not really, but that's what my grandmother told me. Okay, so we're going through the ingredients. We got cubed cheese, and we have meatballs. Now it's easy for us because we have a restaurant. We make meatballs 2-3 times a day. I already have sausage. The sausage I like to use is the sweet sausage with the fennel, and take it out of the casing. It tastes better, in my opinion. But you can do whatever you want. You know, we have a deli also at Coco's Italian, so you can do chunks of salami. You hard-boil the eggs, and then you quarter them. And a little trick when you're doing the hard-boiled eggs is to use a little vinegar. They won't break while you're boiling them. Now, in this scene, we're making the dough. The dough, a couple tricks to know is that you add the water very slowly. To make the dough a little tougher, a little more dense, so that it doesn't break apart, because we're making some pretty long sheets, and it's got to hold the whole thing together. Obviously, in the end, is to use a little oil. Normally, when we make dough, when we make our bread for Coco's Italian, we don't use oil like in our pizza dough or our focaccia bread. But in this case, we're using the dough. And I've got the dough hook. Now, for the sake of making the video, I did not let the dough sit. After you're done making the dough ball, let it sit for an hour. Some people do room temperature, some people put it in the fridge. It doesn't really matter. Actually, part of the chemical reaction of the process of making dough is letting it sit. So here's my son. He's adding the water very slowly, and it's mixing slowly. You want to mix the dough till it's like smooth and even, but because there's so little moisture, I get it to maybe the size of chickpeas, and then I stop, and then I start kneading it by hand. Here we are looking at the bowl, and my son's going to knead the dough since he's tall and can reach down and do that. You flour the table, and like I said, I didn't let it sit long enough in this case, just for the sake of time and making the video. Now you could roll it out, but we use a sheeter. You know, you can buy it if you don't have a sheeter. A good one's maybe $100, $70, and we sell them at our store if you're local. But you could always use a rolling pin, but you know, just for the consistency of the thickness of the pasta, I like to use the sheeter. So now you break the dough ball into smaller, more manageable pieces. Start by stretching it by hand before it goes in the sheeter. You start the sheeter at a wide angle. It's basically stainless steel rolling pins. And then if you incrementally make them thinner and thinner to the desired thickness. And I think we made these sheets probably for this size pan, probably just under 3 feet long, because we're lining the Timpano pan or the stainless steel bowl or whatever you have handy, and you have to leave enough hanging over to make the bottom of it. We're going to flip the remaining pasta, as you'll see later, over the top, which eventually will be the bottom. By the way, the recipe in detail will be at italianmarket.biz. If you have any suggestions, just email me, and I'll make changes to the recipe if I forgot something, or if you have any variations. Because some of the variations, like you can use artichoke hearts and ricotta cheese if you want. You can use mozzarella cheese. There doesn't seem to be any definitive recipe. And let's face it, every family makes dishes a little different. One thing you could do is emulsify some olives and mushrooms, make a tapenade. That could be a whole nother video that we could make on how to do tapenade, because we do make tapenade for our muffalata sandwich. And here we are going through the sheeter with my mother and my son Alex, and she is making it a little thinner, and then you'll see how we stretch it across the bowl. Here we are putting it across the bowl, and obviously you can see we have to have it a little longer in order to, oh geez, this sheet is like a 6-foot sheet. That's hilarious. I'm sure my son got carried away, and I know they'll cut it. Now they're putting the pieces of the dough together, and they'll just tamp it, maybe use a little bit of water on your finger to help meld it together. Again, you could use a smaller bowl at home. I think the size that we did will probably serve a dozen people, but you can make it for 6, make it for 8. And just not everyone has a 8-foot stainless steel table in their house. So again, we're tapping on the seams, and you can see this dough is pretty dense, only to be able to hold the whole timpano together. Push it up against the bowl. Don't leave any of the bowl exposed, obviously, because we are wrapping it all together. Now, this time our first layer is the curlicue pasta. Next, my son is putting on the looks like pieces of salami. Meatballs next, and I'll have a recipe for meatballs. If you don't want to make your own meatballs, that's fine. Just buy some meatballs. Just have fun with this dish, and then every time you do it, you'll have more time to do something a little different. My favorite way to do the meatballs is to roll them in a omelet pan and get the outside really nice and crispy, and then bake them off. Or you could bake them in a slow baking, like with your marinara sauce. And same thing like with your sausage. I don't really expect you to make sausage from scratch, even though we do at Coco's Italian. But again, the luxury we have is that we have a restaurant with prep cooks always cooking. So this could take you days if you don't take a few shortcuts. Again, maybe try some mozzarella cheese or ricotta cheese. You could do a ricotta cheese blend with some Parmesan and an egg to meld that together, or maybe just some mushrooms like I mentioned earlier. Some olives would be good. And then my son is putting on the first layer of our marinara sauce. Now we're doing a second layer of the curlicue ziti. Now another layer of meatballs. Basically just use up what you have. There's meatballs and salami, and we're using the cube cheese. Honestly, at this point I'm not sure what cheese we're using. Very informal. Maybe we'd use mozzarella if we didn't have any of that. Then in the end, it's not on a lot of recipes, but we'll use some egg to help coagulate the whole dish together, because when you cut it, you want it to stick together as part of the presentation. You don't want it to fall out. So whisk in the eggs, we'll put it over the top. And then at the end, we have some sauce left over, and also, now you don't want it to be too wet, obviously. You have to kind of estimate and gauge, because again, when you cut the dish, you don't want it to fall apart. And now the egg. It's the top right now, and now we're folding the top of the timpano, which will be the base of the timpano, and you can trim any excess dough. Also notice how tough the dough is. If you want to do a flaky crust, find that recipe somewhere, or don't use the oil, and it will hold together. Again, it just takes practice. And it's a fun dish. Your friends will love you. You'll get invited to a lot of parties. I always say that. If you want to be invited to a lot of parties, watch my Caesar salad making video. Invest in a little Caesar salad making kit. Show up with that kit, and you will be the life of the party. Everyone loves to watch you make that Caesar salad. Okay, so kind of push it down, and we're going to bake it at 350 for, I think, like 45 minutes, and it's done. All right, now use a tray so you can flip it over. Drum roll, please, which is apropos for a timpano. Ta-da! Let it sit for a little while. Use a very sharp knife when you're cutting this, but the longer you let it sit, the more it will stiffen up. Oh, look at that. That is so delicious, and it's really fun. Well, thank you for watching the video. Watch our Caesar salad, and I'm making some more how-to videos. We have a complete Italian grocery store in Nashville, Tennessee, and also a popular Italian restaurant, bocce courts, and homemade gelato. So come visit us if you're driving through town or right off Interstate 40. Interstate 24 and 65 also come through town, and we're literally right off the exit. So come and visit, say hi, and tell us you saw the videos. Our address is 411 51st Avenue North, Nashville, Tennessee 37209. Give us a call, 615-783-0114. Thank you again. It's an honor to talk to you and to share some of our Italian tradition with you. Ciao.